Are you ready to shake out those family trees?
Wow! Yes!
It's Linda and Gina. On the Twice Removed podcast.
So, hey everyone, welcome back to the Twice Removed podcast. We're your hosts, Linda and Gina, and Linda's got some exciting things to talk about today, so I'm turning the mic over to her.
Oh, yeah. We're going to be talking a little bit about researching German ancestors when you found out that you should be wearing lederhosen instead of like bagpipes, right?
There you go.
Yeah. You got those results back. And you're like, wait a minute. I didn't know that. So you have like this mystery German or something that you're trying to research, or you've known about them the whole time like I have. So when you first start doing your tree and whatever, you start researching. It's like, oh my God, I found the birth certificate for so-and-so, from 1870. That's cool. But then you hit a wall and you can't seem to find some of the other people. And they don't even have anything from that part of the country. And it's like not uploaded. Maybe it's a little tiny village in the middle of BFE Germany. And so what do you do then? Because not all of the records are indexed. They may have them, but they have not indexed them. So you can go and go to the images area of Family Search and look under location and, like city and whatever, and see if you can find them that way. And of course, it helps if you know the year that approximately, maybe you have to do 2 or 3 years worth. If they have them up there, I'm not going to say that they're all going to be there. Like, for example, I have my great grandfather. I knew that he passed away in 1947. He was born in 1867. I know where he passed away. I knew the year, but I never knew what day. It's helpful to know that, right? You want to have that perfect record. And it would not pop up anywhere. And I looked. I have my heritage too. So I was looking there. I was looking on regular Ancestry and Family Search. Nothing would just pop into the records. So I went over to the images and I'm like, oh, there it is. There's the area of Germany. There's the town. And oh, look, they have death, records from the year that he supposedly passed away. And they had a register first. So they were very organized in that town. So I looked in the register and it's like, oh, there's his name. He did die this year. Still didn't have the date. And another thing they don't do is they don't necessarily put what year you were born or the person was born. So, it's like, it's probably him. Common name. And then I went to the 1947 actual images. They're like little microfiche images of the record. They took pictures of it. And nobody's indexed them yet. So you have to go through them yourself and you just click through every one of them. There could be like 500 of them. And I finally get to it in December. So I had to go through the entire year's worth, which was fine. And he passed away the day after Christmas.
Oh, wow.
And it said, on there, passed away, gave him his address, and passed away on this day at 4 o'clock in the afternoon or 4:15 in the afternoon. There you go. And then I could go update my record and I, printed off a copy or saved a copy, a digital one, and put it up to his record online in case anybody else ever cares. So I got the information. You can go and index that now for them so that somebody else can have it instead of just taking it for yourself and running like a bandit. It's nice to go ahead and, put it up there and say that, what date it was and the time and maybe a little description because not everybody can read German if you're doing German. And especially if they're third, fourth generation here, they're maybe not going to know the language. So there's that. And then there's a catalog also where you can search through. And sometimes they'll have photos of those also, like same little microfiche photos. And this is all still under the Family Search area. You can pull it up and you can see that, all these different possibilities of where you can look for things because they're not going to necessarily pop up. You're going to get the stuff that are records that are floating around, probably from other people's trees, or the stuff that has been indexed. So you go to the catalog, sometimes you can find it there. If it's not, then you know what? You may have to go to Utah. Or if you have a library in your area that can, that has the information that you can pull up from there because they have a genealogical library that's a partner with Family Search in Utah. So you can find stuff there that way too, that if it's not available directly at your fingertips, you can maybe go in person to your local library if you're in a bigger city. I happen to have one of those here, so I haven't had to go over there yet, but we'll see. And then the other way is like looking through other people's trees, which is like recycled garbage in, garbage out a lot of times because nobody knows anything, especially if it's going to be from a foreign country. If it's American stuff, generally, it's easier because people understand the language. But with the German stuff, I've noticed stuff that they can't read the font, and it's written in script, and they don't know the language. And
the
they
Italians are like that too.
They called somebody whose nickname was Kitty, they called her Kibby. Because they did not know what those letters were. 2 T's are not 2 B's, I have to tell you. That is a question. But so, there's that, and then other genealogies that are on there. And the wiki is good because you can drill down to a specific area and find specific things, and like military records and stuff like that too by area. The other thing is books, and I haven't really found a whole lot of books on Family Search yet, but I went to books.google.com and typed in the town, and next thing you know, I got the newspapers. Of course, they're in German,
clever.
and they're in a funky font also. But I wanted to find something out. I wanted to find out when my great-grandfather started living in the house that he was in, and that my mother grew up in for the first, I don't know, I'd say 12 years of her life or so. The reason is because we have a watercolor picture that's been passed back and forth like Sisterhood of the Traveling Pants. It went back and forth to 2 people's houses. It ended up in Germany. Now I have it again.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. My cousin sent it to me after my aunt passed away because it was hanging in her living room. I just wanted a picture of it. I didn't know it was going to come to me in a box. So that's cool.
Awesome.
Yeah, I have it. It's cool. I grew up with that picture in my mom's, I think it was in the living room or her bedroom. So, but I took it apart because unfortunately when it traveled, the frame broke, and it was also like a really old frame, like over 100 years old probably. Oh. And then I saw on the back of it, I'm like, I read it and it said Unser Häusl in Speyer,
which means
Deine Schwester Unnel, which means our little house in Speyer, the town, your sister Anne Unnel, but it was like a nickname, right? I'm like, okay, that's weird because my grandmother did not go by that name. She went by Anna. And so maybe this is a picture that my great-grandfather's sister gave him because her name was also Anna. Oh, okay. So I needed to know through some books or something, when did he start living in that house? Because if he lived there with his family, then it's not from his sister. Then it would be from my grandmother to her sister. And that would make the most sense because my mother got the picture from the estate when her aunt died, who was my grandmother's sister in New York. And that's how it, made it to America. So what I ended up doing was I found newspapers, but I also found address books. Like they were like little phone directory books without phones. And I found enough of them to where I could find out what the address was of my great-grandfather through the years that I found. And he moved there as a child, and different address, his father's different address from that. It's like, okay, so far it's not the family home that he inherited. And then I went and I found another one where he had moved, and then now he's a beer brewer. Okay. He's got his first occupation, probably has his first kid, married. All right. And then found another one, different address again, still not the one I'm looking for because I know the address of the house. And of course, you can't find it because they changed the address. Current, the house is still there, by the way. And then I kept going until I finally found it after 1911, but it was like 19 13 or something. I found, 14. It was between 1911 and 1914 that he moved into that house. So it was his house.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So his daughters, my grandmother and her sister who lived in New York, it was a transaction between them. So I learned something new about my grandmother. She went by Unnel at one point.
Oh,
Did not know that. Yeah.
See, from the back of a picture.
Yeah. No, I don't think anybody had ever popped that open since it was put together.
Probably not.
Yeah, it had like a little paper thing over it, And
that's awesome.
I guess my aunt, my great aunt, probably had it framed. Yeah, she did, because it was framed on Long Island because it had the information there. But that didn't mean anything. I mean, it could have made it over here, and she would have reframed it anyway to have it in her home. And like, I don't like the frame,
Right.
So, and you don't want to necessarily ship something with glass like my cousin did. But I'm so happy to have it. And that's just like
incredible.
That's just one of those little weird rabbit holes that you jump in when you're researching. You find stuff. It's like, oh, wait a minute. Oh my gosh. Well, what does this mean? I got to know now. And, it's like you create your own little family Nancy Drew mysteries all on your own.
Mm-hmm.
So,
absolutely.
But while I was doing that, this is in the category, you learn something new every day. In the German land and property section of Family Search Wiki, a rod, now don't get too excited, is the length of the sum of the left feet of the first 15 men out of church on Sunday. Usually about 5.5 yards.
Huh? Say this again.
A rod. It's a unit of measure for German land measurement, apparently, like acres, whatever.
Okay.
A rod is the length of the sum of the left feet of the first 15 men out of church on Sunday.
So it will always change, unless it's always the same.
But it's usually about 5.5 yards. See, that's the problem with old record keeping and stuff. It's like nobody really thought that a lot of stuff was that important. I mean, if you're going to have an argument about where your property is, I think they probably would have put up like some stones or something and say, well, this is my land. I put my rocks here,
Right.
And nobody would go over to your side because they're going to get one of those rocks upside the head or something, right? So,
Yeah.
But, and they didn't have like, women's maiden names and stuff. And like in that address book, it mentioned my great-grandfather, but it didn't mention his wife. Like who else lived there. It wasn't like a family book, because there are some family books that you can find that the church has, that the churches used to keep. And that's a whole other thing too, because I have, I was able to find some things. This is really cool because, a lot of the records aren't released. Like I was saying, like I had to go dig through the images, but in Germany, they don't release birth records for 110 years, marriage records for 80 years, or death records for 30 years. So you have to wait a long time. You may never, ever know somebody's birth.
Wow.
Unless you go to that little town and say, hey, I'm direct related to this person. I'd like to see the records. I want the certificate. Oh, okay. Prove it. Well, that's what I'm trying to do to begin with. So I was able to go on two sites. One is called matricula-online.eu, and it's mostly German records, and it's church records. And it's free. They do take donations, and I recommend donating because I've found so much stuff on there. And archion.de, which is like 20 euros for 30 days that you can go in there and search and download up to 100 documents, which, 100 documents, unless their whole family's up there, whatever, then pay another 20 euros, because you're getting what you need. But this was really cool because I was able to, the same great-grandfather, I was able to find his mother and his grandmother's information on there. And I found out that his great-grandmother had 14 children. Yeah. Is your mic on?
Yes.
Okay.
I was just like saying, oh my gosh, instead of just say no.
Because your jaw kind of dropped and nothing came out. I'm like,
I have 14 kids. I mean, it's kind of like, oh, wow.
Well, 13 births. There was a set of twins, but it's like the same thing too. Back then, they had the family book, and that was all listed in the family book. through this online service. And so that's how I was able to find it, because they kept track of the family. And it's like, yep.
See, women are the true pioneers of the world, right?
Yeah,
there.
they had all the dates and the children's first names.
Wow.
And like, of course, they had to like separate it out. It's like, these are illegitimate and these are legal. I know. And like calling them out. And then when I went back and I wanted to find each child. Damn it. I went back and found each child. I found each child's record. I printed it out, and I uploaded them to my family tree so that they're included on there. And I'm still trying to figure out paternity for a few of them, because I'm telling you what, these women had to really fight for every freaking detail, because, you know, the whole thing with marriage in Germany is like you had to prove that you could afford to live somewhere and have a family and be married. Otherwise,
well, then what would she do with 14 kids? Was she married?
Part of the time.
Part of the time. Okay, so the part that she wasn't, well, what happens? I mean,
well, the guy would be there. They would set up a household, or he would move in with them, because she was in the family home. That's how I found out. You know, I could see her address. Yeah. I mean, you know, you're talking not like a ranch style house on the beach. We're talking like a 3 or 4 story house that's, you know, the solid 12-inch brick. So they have like one floor is maybe the parents, and then the kids each maybe have like a room or some kind of something upstairs. And, you know, they peasant families. Okay. And so, you know, they would have the kids, and then they would go and get them baptized, because you would want to make sure that they were baptized, because there was some whole thing with that too. But on each record, when I pulled up each one of these children, you had them numbered. And she was the only one of any of the records that I went through where you could tell where the priest had numbered her children.
Was she on the watch of somebody's, on the list of somebody's watch or something? I mean,
the priest probably like, oh, here's another one. Good old, you know, whatever. Oh, here's child number 10. Let's put a big circle around the 10. I don't see anybody else on here with any kind of freaking notations like this. So you were calling out this woman. And, you know, she is like my new heroine. She is my new heroine. I mean, she really is, because she was trying to still have a family. And it's just pitiful. But, you know, at one point then she got married and had the one husband. And I come to the decision that, yes, he is definitely the father of my 2 times great grandmother, because he's on all the documents and stuff. But she never changed her last name, technically. And I don't think they cared about that. And I'm kind of glad that she didn't, but I'm having a hard time finding records on him. So, but it was just so strange. But again, that was on matricula-online.eu, and the free one. And there's so much information up there. But again, it's the same thing. You have to go and sit through all this microfiche style, you know, like just page after page after page of images. And some of it's in the crappiest handwriting. Some of it somebody spilled their freaking bottle of ink on, you know, and some of them are in Latin.
We're just lucky those records survived.
I know, because a lot of them did not. A lot of them did not. And, you know, during wars and whatever, when they'd blow up buildings and you would lose everything. But anyway, that was fun. And I feel really good about putting all of them up there. You know, all those kids.
Yes, you did right by them.
I know. I think that they needed to be remembered somehow. And my goodness, this one name, they tried so hard to have a child with this one name, Wahlberger. I thought it was Wahlberger. I thought it was like a dude, you know. Turns out that it must have been my great-great-grandmother's best friend that she was trying to name her baby after. None of them made it. She kept trying. She kept trying to name this kid. And then I think one of her daughters named a child after her, and finally it took. Oh. But yeah, they
interesting.
Yeah, in these names, yeah. And you can't even read half of the stuff, but it's but anyway, yeah, so family books are really great, and they're pretty popular in some of the smaller villages, so they could keep track of the population and, you know, call them out for having illegitimate children and all that fun stuff.
Well, that was quite informative.
Yeah, so Anyway, yeah, so German stuff, and there's so many other resources I haven't even hit on yet, but like the Google Books section is really awesome because they have a lot of the free newspapers up there, and I've downloaded a couple of them because I wanted to find. I'm tracing back this other line in my family of so near my mom's hometown, there's another town to the west, like it would be like 20 miles, maybe 20 kilometers, something like that. And the family migrated from there to my mom's hometown at some point. But they were from Neustadt on the Weinstrasse originally. And this family, it goes back to the 1800s, and they had 4 kids, and the parents both passed away before the kids were fully grown. And my great-great-grandmother was 16 years old, and her next youngest brother sibling was like 11, and then there was a 5-year-old. And I think there was an older sister, but I haven't found any other records on her. Okay, all of those kids, except for the little boy, had history in either Neustadt or in my mom's hometown, or they came to America. And the other kid went up to near Frankfurt. And that was where he was living his life. Who did he go live with? There was nobody else on the tree that has that area in their details. Like, they weren't born in Frankfurt area. They didn't die there. They didn't get married there. Nothing. Only him. So now I'm in search of adoption information. I don't know how he got there. So that's the next thing on the list, is trying to figure out how orphan children were handled back in the mid to late 1800s.
Are they locked down on their adoption information like we are out here?
I can't even see any adoption information.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, because he kept his name. It's not like he was adopted and his name changed or anything. It was still the same name. And the funny thing is that he is the second great-grandfather of the surprise cousin that was a friend in Florida. So I kind of want to find it out for her, you know?
Yeah, for sure. That's great.
So anyway, yeah, Germany is not that hard. You'd have to learn the handwriting. There's some little tricks online too for that. There's a thing called Transcriptus, and it'll look at something that's handwritten or machine printed written, you know, like in that font from hell, and it'll convert it over into regular text. And then if you can't read German at that point, then you copy and paste it into Google Translate, and then you might be able to make heads or tails of what the document says.
Okay.
And sometimes if it is clear text and it's in a different language, you can just use Google Lens and like take a picture of it and hit translate, and it'll translate it for you also. So that's a little helpful information. I use those all the time. And sometimes Google does better than the European translation AI. It's a bot. So, you know, it's not always, you have to train it to read it right, but not everybody's handwriting's so perfect. So they're trying to stay within the font they're supposed to use, but it still is crappy handwriting. And priests should be able to write better. And I really did prefer the Latin, honestly. In some cases. So anyway, that's what I have for Germany.
Well, thank you for sharing all of this information. It's been a wealth.
And you know, you can kind of look at things the same way for other backgrounds, like Italian. There's going to be something similar. You just have to look for it, you know, because you have like all these societies and whatever, and they have a list of all of these places that you can go to translate documents, to find documents, depending. Like I belong to a German Genealogical Society that's on Long Island, and they have a meeting once a month, and I learn a little piece here and there, and there's stuff like that for Italian and Spanish and French. French is hard because they don't allow DNA testing, so you have to kind of really know your genealogy when you're dealing with French. And then if you're Norwegian, you can find anything you want everywhere.
Then you got to stay open, people, and join the groups and keep on hunting. And if you have questions, Linda will be happy to answer them.
And
just come over to our website. And
joining a genealogical society, it sounds like, this is going to cost me thousands of dollars a year. It's so cheap. I don't remember how much I paid to be the one involved in the one locally. Was it even $50? I don't even think it was 50, maybe 35 or something like that. And they have meetings. It's a nonprofit, so it's not like they're charging you a ton of money. It just keeps them, they collect the money so that they can pay their annual fees that they have to pay to the government to be a nonprofit. They have fundraisers. Right. The one here was going to be driving over to LA for to go visit the library in Burbank. So that's like a field trip. They do stuff like that too. Yeah. But you can find things everywhere, and don't forget to check your photo albums.
That's it. People, look on the back of the pictures.
Yep. You never know what you're going to see there, and that's another topic for another day, but photos definitely, pictures, paints 1,000 words in a million ways.
Absolutely.
Anyway, that's all I got.
Thank you, Linda.
Yeah. Talk to you later.
Bye.
Bye.
The Twice Removed podcast is produced by Linda Anderson and Gina Glass. All opinions expressed are of our own and of our guests. For more information and upcoming guests, please visit our website, twiceremoved.net.